Scene breaks have two really useful purposes. First of all, they are a really good visual guide. They allow you to break your cue list up into segments, which is commonly used in the theatre world for breaking your cue list up into scenes. And taking that a step further, you can then actually use it in conjunction with tracking to allow you to just track a value through to the end of a scene. You don't need to worry about doing a cue only, you don't need to worry about updating with tracking and then going and finding the cue where you need to take the light back out. You can do it all through defining scenes. So first of all, we can look at how we can actually add in a scene break. Two ways of doing this, as always with Neo. You can do it through the interface or through the command line. Command line first of all, and to add a scene break in, you need to actually add it to the last cue of a scene. So let's say that I wanted Q3, that is the first cue of scene 2. Q3 is the first cue of scene 2. Therefore, I need to add that command to Q2, because the scene break is going to go between those two. So I can use the syntax Q2, and then I can actually type in here scene break, and then I can give it a name. So I've seen scene break there, and then I can actually give it a name. So I'm going to call this scene 2, and then go ahead and hit enter. And like we said, I've defined Q2, therefore it has added that scene break in between Q2 and Q3. And it's added that there. So that is indeed a visual indicator. I can go into my first cue, it's going to run in, I can then go into my next cue, and I'm then going to go into my next cue. And if I press my go button, nothing special happens. I go into Q3 as you would expect. It's just a handy visual indicator on how you can adjust that. Now you see here, if I go to my current playback and I right click on a cue, this is where you can also go and say insert a scene break below this cue. So that's how you can do it from the interface. Just right click and you will have the option there for you. So we've seen how we can use it as a visual indicator, but what about to actually use that as a tracking tool? Well, let's say that I'm in my queue here, and I realise this whole queue would be, this whole scene, all of scene 1, would be better with light 10 at 50%. So I'm going to go and say 10 at 50, enter. And I'm going to go and say update. If I were to just do an update or an update enter, we are in tracking mode. And so the light would be added in to this queue and it would track all the way through until that light is given a new instruction by one of the subsequent queues. But what I want to do is I want to say update, and then I'm going to go and say tracking option. That gives me queue only. Tap it again, that would be track back. Tap it again, I get queue only for intensity or tracking for attributes. But if I tap it another time, I get track scene populated on my command line. So if you see update track scene, and I'm going to go and hit enter, the console has added the light into Q1. It's tracked into 1.5. It's tracked into Q2. But because Q3 is then in the next scene, the console has automatically updated Q3 for me to take light 10 back out. And that's how we can use these scene breaks in conjunction with track scene to allow us to very easily add lights into a whole scene, take lights out of a whole scene, or indeed make just subtle colour changes or subtle position changes for a whole scene.